Monday, February 9th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. Welcome back for another week of watching and paying attention to the things that God is doing, prophecy being fulfilled, and the outright shenanigans happening all around the world. This is the last week before what appears to be the opening of seal number 5. And by all accounts, it looks like seal number 5 is the Great Tribulation. We'll be continuing to look into what that means this week, continuing to look into the coming Messiah that was prophesied of old, that came 2,000 years ago and is returning after having received power and great glory and his kingdom. So exciting things ahead. Let's start the day with our Fury reports. So Fury says, so much is happening this weekend as well as today. The U.S. sets a June deadline for peace agreement in the Ukraine war. Zelensky says part of the U.S. strategy involves proposing a new round of trilateral negotiations in Miami next week. Thousands rally in Berlin in support of Iranians nationwide, uprising against their government. The rally was held on the same day as the anniversary of Iran's 1979 anti-monarchy revolution. Fury says, did you know that the Iranian resistance has a president-elect, and she is in Germany? Her name is Maryam Rajavi, and she held a conference on February 8th with members of the German Bundestag. I didn't know that. Conservatives are now calling for mass protests outside the home and offices of Texas Democrat Rep. Gene Wu after he stated that minorities need to rise up against white people and take over the United States. Yeah, he let his mask slip this weekend. I did see that on Tim Pool. That is absolutely insane. We're only a week away from that eclipse, and things seem to be ramping up. I noticed a shift in the rhetoric and the commentation, and everybody seems to be in agreement that this is the calm before the storm. What we're trying to figure out is, what does the Great Tribulation look like? And we're still trying to answer the question, is there a pre-tribulation rapture? That is something that we're definitely going to continue to talk about. And I guess we'll know once the Great Tribulation starts, if there is some kind of an event that indicates that it has started. We'll know we're still here, or if it's just the 144,000 that are raptured. I don't know if we'll notice that many people missing. I imagine that amount of people probably go missing on a regular basis, and people don't know. I guess it just depends on how prominent they are. Moving on, Bitcoin rebounds to 70,000 after losing post-2024 election gains. The drop comes down despite expectations that Trump's pro-crypto policies, including a crypto-friendly Securities and Exchange Commission and plans for a national Bitcoin reserve. Told you Friday was the best time to invest in Bitcoin. Had you done that, and had you potentially... what is it when you add multipliers? If you had invested and added some multipliers, you could be sitting pretty today. I used to do trading. I made a lot of money and I lost a lot of money. I haven't done any kind of trading in a while. Don't like the stress of it. I like it when you win. Who doesn't? All right, China bombshell. Patel says Biden-era FBI buried truth about CCP ties to biolab on U.S. soil. Of course they did. FBI boss raises concerns Biden-era bureau may have buried truth about Chinese Communist Party ties to dangerous biolabs on U.S. soil. Cites 40% increase in Chinese espionage arrests. Fascinating. I wonder how many spouses. remember that? The Chinese spouse spy? See, out cold. Vermont's electric-powered buses prove unreliable for transportation this winter. Taxpayers were sold an $8 million solution that cannot operate in cold weather. When the home for these buses is in New England, spokesman for energy worker group says. They should have bought a Tesla. Tesla's performed brilliantly in the cold. At least that's my experience. Consumer Reports names Tesla Model Y best electric vehicles for 2026. The latest Model Y took the top spot in Consumer Reports' new 2026 top picks list. Oh, the irony of it all, says Fury. 2 Democrat political orgs took money from ICE contractor as party railed against agency. Democratic senator requires photo ID to enter campaign event while opposing voter ID for elections. The irony. Labor unions are leading the anti-ICE resistance, but they once opposed immigration. You thought only Iran was executing its people. 2 hours ago, Pakistani military concludes operation against separatists in Balochistan. 216 were executed. You know, I wonder if that's not what the Great Tribulation is going to be like. Those who are kept from the trials that are coming on this world maybe won't really realize the tribulation. I do expect the tribulation to come to the United States. I don't see how it can't. You know what I mean? With it being called the worst thing to ever happen on the planet since the beginning of the planet, I can't imagine that 300 million people on one continent are unaffected. But that goes without saying that there is a lot of tribulation on the planet as it is right now. So it's hard to imagine how it can get worse. Did you realize that 50,000 people were murdered in Iran? Did you realize that 216 were murdered in Pakistan? Death occurs on a regular. This is why one of my arguments for would you notice if the 144,000 were caught up together with the Lord. And the reason I bring up the 144,000 is because Revelation 14 talks about them being with Yeshua when he returns. But we could talk about the timeline on when those things could happen. Boy, wouldn't it be great if there was a pre-tribulation rapture? Well, if there is, you got about a week to prepare. I just, honestly, I don't think there is going to be. I think that it's possible to escape the tribulation and to be kept from the trials coming on the whole world. After all, it does say that he cut it short, otherwise no flesh would be saved, and for the elect's sake. So perhaps he cuts it short so that those who are promised to be kept from the trials coming on the whole earth are kept safe. Maybe. That's my hope. Nobody wants to go through tribulation. Everybody wants to be safe and happy. But this is what it's shaping up, that this is judgment being poured out. And I think we all, those who love justice, like to see evil dealt with. And that's my hope, is that this is going to be a popcorn time for those who have taken it on the chin for so long, can sit back and enjoy justice being dished out, being poured out, as it were. There is more news than we have time for, so let us move on to the weekend. And now we're going to get into our daily Torment reports.
Through shadows deep, through bitter years, I see your strength, I see your tears. The weight of loss, the trials fire, still you rise, reaching higher. They pressed you down, they closed you in, but you endured, you would not bend. Through fleeting wealth and fleeting pain, you held your ground, you bore the strain. Hold on, the dawn will break. Through every storm, through every ache, though the world may take its toll, they can't touch your
let us start with let's see if we can do this in 30 minutes for Donald Trump. We're going to try and do the summary of the weekend, and then we're going to go see how long we have to go through Donald Trump's timeline. And then we'll move on to Elon Musk. And then we have a choice on what videos we want to cover today. We may want to cover them both, but one is a less controversial subject and one is a more controversial subject. So depends on how spicy we're all feeling. So let's get into this. In the last 72 hours since Friday, Donald Trump has been posting frequency on Truth Social, covering topics from sports and international congratulations to economic boasts, as this is matter, policy announcements, and shares of news articles. Starting with his most recent posts on Friday the 8th, he wished everyone a great Super Bowl, declaring America stronger, bigger, and better than ever, with the best yet to come. But shortly before that, he highlighted the record stock market, of course, and national security driven by tariffs, predicting the Dow Jones will hit 100,000 by the end of his term, and emphasized that Trump was right about everything, hoping the Supreme Court is watching. He gave a shout out to Michael and Susan Dell for their work on investamerica.org. That seems to be a recurring theme, calling them spectacular people. Well, yeah, they're investing billions of dollars into our youth. That's pretty amazing. A notable post was his lengthy congratulations to Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaishi on her coalition's landslide victory, noting her historic two-thirds supermajority, praising her bold election call, and expressing honor in endorsing her, while wishing success on her conservative peace through strength agenda. Gotta love that. You know, these nations that have a peace through strength agenda rather than just crush them and kill them. Iran. Earlier that day, he called for fixing America's rigged and stolen elections or losing the country, proposing the Save America Act with requirements like voter ID, proof of citizenship, and no mail-in ballots, except for specific cases like illness or military. Yes, please sign me up. I don't care to go have to show my voter ID to vote. And the statistics say the same. He also wished luck to Team USA in the Cricket World Cup underway in India, saying America has a strong team and is rooting for their team. Let's see, what else? He criticized U.S. Olympic skier Hunter Hess as a real loser for saying he doesn't represent his country in the Winter Olympics, suggesting it's hard to root for him and calling to make America great again. Trump shared an article from just the news about a poll showing the majority prefer his immigration policies over Biden's. Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we voted him into office. Durr. Get the murderers and the rapists and the evil people out. And, you know, I hate to say it, but those who are in a murder death cult, we don't want them in the country. He also shared another from Just the News on the appeals court siding with the administration in mass detention. In a moving on, in a highlighted personal update, he described a very important meeting with Honduras President Nasri Tito as Fura at Mar-a-Lago. Boy, that's a name. President Nasri Tito. Nasri. I think his name is Tito. I think that's like it's President Nasri as Fura, who goes by Tito. I believe that's how that's meant to be read. At Mar-a-Lago, noting his endorsement helped Tito win. Their shared America First values, partnership on security against cartels, and deporting illegal migrants. And discussion on investments, trade, health, education, and prosperity. Looking forward to welcoming him back. Moving on to February 7th, Trump advocated for more competition against fake news national TV networks, saying approving deals like Nexstar Tenga would help by increasing sophisticated competition, urging to get that deal done. Yeah, we do need better news. Legacy media sucks. And unfortunately, the legacy media, I argue, is responsible for a lot of Trump derangement syndrome. Like that is the fuel that that is the fuel that feeds the fire of Trump derangement syndrome. That may be TikTok. See, he shared the appeals court article on mass detention. We're not going to look at that. We're just going to read through these things to see see if there's anything we really need to know. Let's see, from Newsmax, he posted about Chris Ruddy telling Rob Schmidt that Trump is the liberator of Latin America. Okay. He shared a Washington Examiner piece questioning if America has Okay, we're going to skip these articles. Let's see. A significant policy announced another big win for Maine and New England by unleashing commercial fishing in the Atlantic Ocean through a presidential proclamation, restoring 5,000 square miles off the coast, reversing Biden's restrictions, advancing America's first fishing policy, and urging to vote Republican in midterms while noting Democrat opposition. I hope that brings down the cost of fish, because fish is rather expensive. Both fish and just meat in general is expensive. Let's see, from Fox News, he shared about the FCC launching a probe into ABC's The View amid a crackdown on equal time for candidates. Speaking of garbage TV, The View. He repeated his stock market boast about tariffs driving records, predicting 100,000 on the Dow. And that Trump was right about everything. On February 6th, the notable rant targeted the January 6th committee, calling them crooked Democrat politician thugs and hacks, including Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, accusing them of getting pardons from Biden for deleting evidence that proved he did nothing wrong, decrying it as crimes against humanity and Biden's illegal autopen use. He bragged that experts said, okay, that's just more about the Dow. That's about the news. Let's see, from Reed Lion, the White House launches Trump RX. We really already know all that. He announced approving $60.6 million for Tennessee's severe winter storms. That seems to be about the majority of it. Let me see if there's anything else. So that brings you up until about Sunday. All right, now let's move over to his actual timeline, and we'll start up here. What are you guys talking about there in the chat? All right. I don't see any questions. You guys seem to be chit-chatting about things. So let us move on to, this was posted a day ago. America's elections are rigged, stolen, and a laughingstock all over the world. Yeah, and anybody who argues against that, you need to acknowledge, and I don't think anybody on our channel here is arguing against that, but you have to acknowledge that it is utterly ridiculous that there are any official election states where there's an election that counts in the United States that does not require a voter ID. They're trying to cheat. The only reason to not require voter ID is if you want to cheat. I think people across the board universally acknowledge that. The only reason that these states don't require ID is because they want to cheat. They want to try and give an advantage to the Democrat Party rather than winning fair and square based on the merit of delivery. You know what? If you guys would actually deliver good leadership, it would be one thing. But instead, you've got to cheat. Anyway, who does it even matter at this point? I mean, like, if we legit go into the Great Tribulation, none of this stuff is going to matter anyway. Yeah. But it's what we're dealing with right now, so here we are. Moving on, 1 hour ago. As everyone knows, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. Now things are turning around for the USA and fast. But imagine, Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both Canada and the United States side, and of course, built it with virtually no U.S. content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. Now the Canadian government expects me, as President of the United States, to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so, and now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers. I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. The tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have, for many years, been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also, importantly, Canada treats the United States with fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. With all that we gave them, we should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Wow. So he's shutting it down. Good on him. Good on him. You know, this is why we should always have a good business person. We should never allow a politician in government again. Should Jesus delay? Should the Lord delay his return and we are forced to go through more of these election cycles, it should just be businessmen. I mean, because, like, these are good deals. Yep. See, it's from Dr. Jan Election Advocate. Thank you, DNI Gabbard, and thank you, AG Pam Bondi. Do not return Fulton County ballots and election documents to Fulton County until they have all been copied, reviewed, and investigated. Too many questions to answer. Missing ballot box tabulator tapes, unsigned, non-certified tabulator tapes, missing ballot images, altered ballot files, missing SHA files, which is a way of securely identifying that a file hasn't been tampered with, missing memory card data, missing absentee ballot envelopes, thousands of double scanned ballots, thousands of double counted ballots, and more than 700 minus 656, almost 50 boxes of election documents that Fulton County did not provide to the FBI. Where are the almost 50 boxes of election documents? Yeah. Nutsoid. Highly respected Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, is a truly strong and powerful leader with a proven track record of delivering phenomenal results. He fights tirelessly. Is this an endorsement? Viktor Orban is a winner and complete and total endorsement. All right, so he's endorsing Viktor Orban. Cool. Another one here. This was 4 days ago. Did I think that we need to go back one post. Yeah, there we go. Trump in the office. USA. This is this is Trump trolling. This has to be Trump trolling because you got a picture of the United States in the background here with United States. The Canada is now United States, and Greenland is also United States, and Alaska was already the United States. Awesome. All right. Well, let's see. Trump moves can cut loan rates 50 BPS, Barkley says. This is from January 28th. Changes at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, along with President Trump's MBS purchase directive, could together lower mortgage rates by a 0.5 percentage point, according to Barclays. Between buying 20 billion MBS, cutting guarantee. Okay, so all of this stuff. All this would have a profound effect on rates in general and could push mortgage rates down 5% this year. Yep. All right, what is this? The Dow hits 50K. We know about that. The Super Bowl halftime show. Yeah, the Supertime half. I didn't even watch it. I don't know how many other people watched it. I really stopped watching sports when they started kneeling for the Pledge of Allegiance. If they can't respect our country, if they can't respect God, I'm not even going to give my attention to the show. So it's like that just killed sports for me. Not that I was a major sports person. I watched football when my friends were watching football, or sports when my friends were watching sports. I grew up playing baseball. I was, if anything, I was a baseball guy. Never really followed it into adulthood. And we used to watch the Super Bowl pretty much religiously, just because the whole world was talking about it. But I had no desire to watch it this weekend. I ended up spending time with my daughter instead. Let's see, what did we do? We went to a play, we went to a talent show, and we watched a lot of Young Sheldon. Great TV show. So yeah, didn't watch it. So what did Trump say though? The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense as an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. This show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401k in history. There's nothing inspirational about the mess of the halftime show and watch. It will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue what's going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. Yeah. Let's see. Enjoy the Super Bowl, America. Anything else we want to cover from this weekend? I just heard the Cricket World Cup is underway in India. Yep. We already covered some of this stuff in the update, in the summary. Oh, that's a beautiful picture. Who's that? Let's see. I had a very important meeting with my friend, the president of Honduras. Oh, this was Tito. There you go. There's Tito. All right. Well, that just about covers everything from Trump for this weekend. Pretty light weekend. We pretty much covered all this stuff in the summary. Let us move on to Elon Musk. Great. This actually gives us extra time. If Elon Musk goes quick, which his posts today were pretty quick. If this goes pretty quick, we may actually cover 2 different videos. We cover them both. All right, let's move over here and cover Elon. Actually, we do this one. Before we do that, though, let's look at the 72-hour overview. It's a little bit longer for Elon. Not much. Over the last 72 hours, Elon has posted a variety of thoughts on politics, space exploration, AI, memes, and global issues on X, starting with his most recent activity on February 8th. But that yesterday, obviously. Let's see. I guess we're going in reverse order. Why are you doing reverse order on this summary? That's bizarre. Anyway, he congratulated a winner in the Grok-related contest, saying congrats. Let's have a look at this video. Let's see. This is the winner. It was all made with grok, apparently. So he's that's apparently this is the guy messing around with a picture of himself. Aww. That's kind of a play on the bikini. So he's in bed, boring life, living life, coming home. So can you give me a stronger so he's just imagining himself and dreaming. Can you give me a girlfriend? Aww. There you go. In the beginning, God made male and female. In the beginning, he made male and females. There you go. Meant to be together. That's cute. I don't normally play the grok stuff, but this was a big competition, so this is apparently the winner. The contest was rigged, and we know all the riggers. Okay. All right, if you insist. I don't know anything about that. That's just what was posted as the winning post. So he replied to a post about judging him by his memes, stating, "Good rule of thumb in any conflict is that the side with the best sense of humor are the good guys." That's true. I definitely agree with that because evil people tend to do evil things. Let's see. Good rule of thumb is in any conflict. Let's see. This was no matter what lies the mainstream media writes about Elon Musk, I won't judge him by that. I judge him by the memes he posts. They're pretty funny, by the way. They are. Yeah, this is why we love Elon Musk. Good rule of thumb in any conflict. Let's see, what is this? In any conflict, let's see, good rule of thumb in any conflict is that the side with the best sense of humor are the good guys. True. I guess it goes to say that evil has a terrible sense of humor. All right, moving on. Musk announced a major shift in SpaceX priorities, writing, "For those unaware, SpaceX has already shifted focus to building a self-growing city on the moon, as we can potentially achieve that in less than 10 years, whereas Mars would take 20 plus years. The mission of SpaceX remains the same: extend consciousness and life as we know it to the stars. It is only possible to travel to Mars when the planets align every 26 months. 6-month trip time to Mars, whereas we can launch to the moon every 10 days. 2-day trip time. This means we can iterate much faster to complete a moon city than a Mars city. That said, SpaceX will also strive to build a Mars city and begin doing that in about 5 to 7 years. But the overriding priority is securing the future of civilization and the moon. And the moon is faster." Yeah, I think this plays into what he's doing with combining XAI and SpaceX. What role this plays biblically is the things that he's putting into our atmosphere. I mean, as well as other people, but there's no argument that he's putting more crap up in outer space than anyone else. He's contributing, I believe, to the stars that fall to the earth like a fig tree when it is shaken. And then it would not surprise me if he doesn't have a hand in the mountain that is cast into the sea. That's like a great meteor. So, I mean, that could be a meteor because I think that happens before Apophis. Apophis, wormwood, is a whole other thing. But you sit here and you see everything that he's doing with, not only is he working to launch like 24, like every hour, like he's working to launch stuff into the atmosphere every hour, 24 times a day. And he's looking to build data centers in our atmosphere. So those things are going to weigh more than version 3 of the Starlink satellites. So he's not only is he launching those things, but I believe he's also signed on to build the new space station, because they're decommissioning the old International Space Station, which that could be the mountain that is cast into the sea. I believe that thing is nuclear. So if that's nuclear and they do like a controlled descent, or if like there's no controlled descent and it falls before they have a chance to do a controlled descent, that could potentially be the mountain. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? In Revelation, where it talks about I think it's between seal 6 and 7. It might be in seal 7. Maybe we'll look it up later. But there's a mountain which is cast into the sea. It's like a fiery mountain. It's like a something fiery falling from heaven into the sea, and it like poisons a third of the earth. But then there's also Apophis. They could be the same. I don't know. But I think about all these things that Elon is doing in space, and I have to wonder if, with him ramping up his efforts, if a lot of this stuff is in vain. Which also makes me think, you know what, another thing that I think is funny is God knows the future, right? I mean, obviously, he had it written down, and we have a book that literally, it's like that almanac from Back to the Future that tells us of things that are going to happen. So God knows the future. And if Elon Musk is indeed one of the two witnesses, would telling him about all of these things cause him to stop doing them? And then would it change? Would the word pages on the Bible change? Would the words in the Bible change? Because like he found out that like, the equipment that he's sending up into outer space is just going to fall to Earth in 6 months anyway. I don't think so. I think God has accounted for all of that. He knows human nature. He knows what's going to happen, and it's all preordained. Does it violate free will choice? I don't think so. I just think that God knows what's going to happen. And you know what I'm thinking? You know what I'm talking about here? Or am I just talking to myself? I get into these weird time loop thought experiments to where God is so powerful that not only does he know the future, and told us the future, that he knows that the knowledge of the future is going to the effect of knowing the knowledge of the future and how it is going to change the outcomes. So, like for instance, there's a high likelihood that we know the Great Tribulation is going to start February 17th based on all the signs. God gave us this information to know that that's about when it's going to start. But knowing that, how does it change your behavior? It's not going to stop the Great Tribulation, but it might allow you to be prepared. So, Jesus did say, for if the good man of the house had known in what hour the thief would come, he would not have allowed his house to be broken into and suffered his home to be, to be, it's not violated. I don't remember the exact word, but he would not have allowed his home to be broken up. Broken up, I think, is the word that's used. Anyway, let's move back. Let's get back to Elon's summary. Kind of went on a tangent there about outer space and timelines. Let's see. In response to a video asking about deprioritization Mars for the moon, he simply said the moon has to be first. The video shows a man interviewing Elon, with Elon explaining why SpaceX is focusing on the moon, including trip times. I mean, it makes sense. If we can ship stuff to the moon, significantly faster, we might as well just load up all the resources there and launch to Mars from the moon, right? If you get a city built on the moon and you can get manufacturing on the moon, I imagine there's resources on the moon that you can use to build things. There's got to be metal. Maybe, who knows? I don't know if they can make rocket fuel there. We may have to ship them rocket fuel, but maybe they can. Maybe there's all kinds of elements that they can use. Do they even need rocket fuel? I mean, maybe they can do it with solar. It's always sunny in space, Elon says. All right, moving on. He reacted to a video of blue sky and Threads users returning with a smiley face. The video shows Elon Musk quoting a line from the Avengers. You cannot live with your own failure, and where did that bring you? Back to me, with text overlays mocking users who left X but came back. Ha ha ha. See, Musk offered legal support, saying, I will pay for the defense of anyone who speaks the truth about this and is sued for doing so in response to Matt Walsh's post about naming names and allegations suggesting Congress could protect whistleblowers. Let's have a look at that. All right, so in response, so what is this? Matt Walsh, I'm all for releasing the files. These women could also just name their abusers at any time. Instead, they've embarked on a months-long publicity campaign, which curiously didn't start until the exact moment Biden left office. What is this? Huh. Boy, that's an annoying sound. Titanium on the moon, huh? What's this?
Because she deserves the truth.
Because we all deserve the truth.
Can't wait till judgment is poured out, to be honest. So Matt Walsh says, for those claiming that they can't name names because they'll be sued, they could simply give the names to any of their many and mostly very recent advocates in Congress who could read the names out loud from the floor, insulating themselves and these women's from any litigation, but they refused to do that. Why? Okay, so that's the context of Elon saying, I will pay for the defense of anyone who speaks the truth about this and is sued for doing so. You've got the backing of the richest man in the world. Speak up, ladies, please, by all means. You know, you made this video. By all means, please tell us who your abusers are. The world wants to know. Yeah. All right, what else from the weekend here? Let's see, he agreed with 100% with a post saying Elon was right about Steve Bannon. Yeah, we're going to get into that here shortly. Musk replied exactly to a video breaking down his Tesla semi costs advantages over diesel. But since this touches on Tesla, we'll skip that. He called a case involving Beau Biden evil in response to a post about DuPont, about their DuPont air sex case. Okay. Let's see. Musk praised Senator John Fetterman. Fury brought this up for supporting voter ID, saying awesome to a post quoting Fetterman. I do not believe that it is unreasonable to show an ID to vote. I like Fetterman. Good Democrat. He replied good to a post about a departure of Morgan Sweeney from the Censorship NGO Center for countering digital hate. Musk reacted wow to a post about Rep. Jean Wu saying non-whites share the same oppressors and we are the majority now. Okay, yeah, so this came up in chat. Let's have a look-see over here. Yeah.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. Because we are the majority in this country now. We have the ability to take over this country and to do what is needed for everyone and to make things fair. But the problem is our communities are divided. They're completely divided. And I talk about this. I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor.
Okay, so he's saying the day the Latino, African American, Asian, so basically all the non-white races
is the day we start winning.
So it sounds like he's suggesting that the white man is the oppressor. This is a member of Congress.
We are the majority in this country now. We
This is Representative Jean Wu. Non-whites share the same oppressor, and we are the majority now. We can take over this country. See, this to me seems like it's leaning towards the Great Tribulation. Elon just responded, wow. How do you define a white, though? Like, who do you define as white? Because technically, Elon is African. He's from South Africa. Is he considered white? Wow. Why the I don't know. Why the racism? Jesus warned us about the racism. He did. Matthew 24 clearly warned us about the racism. But this is just unbelievable. Like, what are you saying? I mean, like, this is almost as bad as that one representative that was calling for violence. Rise up, be violent. You know, she was saying, be violent. Why aren't these people held accountable for this? It's no wonder that when you say, when you call for hate and then hateful, vicious things happen, it's no wonder that those things happen when you call for these kind of things. All right, anyway, moving on. See, posted a photo of beautifully simple light interstate for Starship Heavy. Musk agreed. Let's see, with a post calling. Okay, that's Kardashev. Let's see, what else do we want to cover from this weekend? Anything else? Mail-in ballots. Steve Bannon. We're going to talk about Steve. He posted about this a couple of times just today. He said, this is not right. Let's see, to a video about no prosecutions from Epstein list versus 500 to 600 J6 protesters in prison. The video shows Elon Musk in an interview with a man discussing the top 100 puppet masters. I think we have another video of this, but I'm kind of curious. Yeah, I think we're going to watch this.
I'd like to see a matchup of those, call it the top 100 puppet masters on the Epstein client list.
Do you think there's some overlap?
Strong overlap. Strong overlap.
When are we going to see that list, do you think?
I don't know. It's mind blowing that they've not tried to prosecute even one.
Yeah.
Not even the worst offender on the Epstein client list. They've not even tried to prosecute even one.
How does that tell you?
That's insane.
Well, because they have a lot of diabetic grandmothers who were outside the Capitol on January 6th. They're kind of occupied.
Yeah, they've put like whatever 500 or 600 January 6 protesters in prison, and not one person on the Epstein client list. I'd like to see a match.
Yeah, that's just terrible. We want to see justice. I've got my fingers crossed, so to speak, that the Great Tribulation is finally we start to see some justice. Let's see. What else? Ooh, Pizzagate. Musk called the Pizzagate emails and Seth Rich story suspicious to a video explaining the emails and Rich's death. The video is a documentary-style explanation with text overlays and images detailing the Podesta emails, WikiLeaks, Seth Rich's role, and suspicion around his death. This could be interesting. We need to move on. We're at about 15 minutes of handling the weekend. We need to get on with current events. Suspicious. Yeah, this is 16 minutes. We're not going to watch this whole thing. Pizzagate emails were originally discovered.
Of DNC staffer Seth Rich, who was murdered last summer. A federal investigator telling Fox News that an FBI forensic report of Rich's computer showed he made contact with WikiLeaks through a former reporter and London-based WikiLeaks director, Gavin McFadden. The investigator told Fox News Rich provided McFadden with more than 44,000 emails, nearly 18,000 attachments. Rich was murdered near his D.C. home on the morning of July 10th.
Yikes. All right, with that, let's move on to Elon's posts for today. So this top of the post, his most recent one 4 hours ago, looks like it's a picture of a part on one of the spaceships or something. It says something. Men from the planet Earth first set foot on the moon, June or July 1969. We came in peace for all mankind. So is this like the lunar lander? Something like that? All right, let's see. So SpaceX will build a system that allows anyone to travel to the moon. This will be insanely cool. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you could take a vacation to the moon? I imagine that we will. When Christ comes back, when he returns, I think we're gonna learn things about the universe, because the scripture talks about we can't even imagine the things that are prepared for us. Like, he's been gone for 2,000 years. What has Jesus been doing? Like, Luke tells us that he went to go receive a kingdom. We'll look at that tonight. He went to go receive his kingdom. That's why he comes back with power and great glory. So, but where has he been for 2,000 years? Was that travel time? Is that just like how long it takes to get to where his kingdom originates from? Is Earth just a small little like vacation plot that he's coming back to? But so there's so many amazing things in our future. Even if he delays, and we are in 5786 according to Jewish counting for the year. So maybe we've got 30 more years. Maybe my timeline is all just completely wrong and I've missed everything. And maybe we've got 30 more years, and the technology that Elon is working on will become a reality, and we'll be able to travel to the moon. One way or the other, in the next couple of years, we'll probably be able to travel to the moon, whether it's with Elon's technology or just because we have new bodies. I'm voting for the new body part because I do think we're right about the timeline. There's just a lot of signs pointing to it. All right, let's see. Life cannot just be about one sad thing after another. Oh, that's a good saying. There must also be things that make us super excited and inspired about the future. This is one of those things, big time. Yeah, I'm super excited about Jesus returning and learning about the entire universe. But like I said, if he delays, this is a close runner-up. Like moving towards that Star Trek lifestyle where everybody's happy, everybody gets along, and we're a space-faring race that is seeking out new life and civilizations, boldly going where no man has gone before. And Mars too. This will be so awesome. All right, what is this? So SpaceX is now shifting their priorities into building a moon base, doing so in less than a decade. This proposal from the ISU involves converting a Starship into a lunar base, Skylab style. That is pretty cool. 6 hours ago, Tom Lowe, can you explain these ethics, Amanda? User, is it okay for white people to have white pride? Claude, no. User, is it okay for black people to have black pride? Claude says yes. What does Leon say? This is false. Drama. This AI drama stuff. Not a great idea. She cannot even answer basic question about Claude's ethics. Anyway, moving on. AI is flawed. Claude is flawed. I mean, it's incredibly powerful, and it's having a disruptive effect on everything around us. But it's definitely very flawed. Periodic reminder that building factories and cities in space will be based as hell. It will be epic to see. So this is a picture of like a base on the moon. You got all your solar panels and satellite dishes, and then you got like living places and manufacturing places and like cars or machinery, mining. Somebody mentioned that there's a lot of titanium on the moon. That's good. Fury says if a day is as 1,000 years to God, then your timeline could still be right no matter how long it takes. Oh, that reminds me, I had such an interesting thought. Let me go see if I can find that note. I wrote a note down today when I was preparing for the show. Let me see if I can find that note. It has to do with 1,000 years. All right. So God rested on the seventh day. And if 1,000 years is as a day to God, does that mean that he's about to take a rest for 1,000 years? Which is interesting that that would take place just as Jesus comes back shortly before the seventh day and rules and reigns for 1,000 years. So does that mean that, like, is this like a transitional period where Jesus gets to kind of, dad takes a break and he, starts to rule and reign on earth? Interesting coincidence, right? That we're getting to the 6,000th year. So does that mean there's so many implications in thinking about that? So does that mean that like the 1,000-year reign is going to be a time of rest? I think so. Remember your redemption draws nigh. This is bringing an end to sin, bringing an end to the curse. So I mean, maybe it's rest for everybody. And then after 1,000 years, the beast is let out of the bottomless pit again. So does the cycle start over? So we get 1,000-year break. Interesting things to think about. All right, moving on. Let's see. Steve Bannon. A lot of stuff about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon should be marked and avoided by everyone in the conservative movement. The more I learn about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the more I am disgusted and disturbed by the man. I have been calling him out for a couple of years now. He's worse than I thought. Yeah. Let's see. Elon responding to Doge designer Steve Bannon, best friends with Epstein, hundreds of texts with Epstein, money laundering, gifts, politics, border wall plans, even a doc to rehab Epstein's image. Likely visited the island multiple times. Reid Hoffman, hundreds of emails, confirmed visits to the Epstein Island, sent gifts to the island and for the girls, lying about his relationship with Epstein. Elon Musk never visited the island, declined every single invitation, calling for full prosecutions and offering legal help for victims to tell the truth. Why does the media attack Elon Musk so hard with fake and twisted stories, but stay mostly quiet about Bannon and Hoffman? Yeah, suspicious, eh? See, because the media is controlled by Democrats, they protect people on their side and go after people on the other side. That's why it's important to share X links with your friends and family so they can learn the truth for themselves. Indeed. Here we go. These are pictures with Bannon and Epstein. This is a real selfie pic with Bannon and Epstein. Steve Bannon wasn't just connected to Epstein, he was one of his closest friends. Hundreds of texts, personal interviews for a sympathetic documentary, money laundering. Interesting. These things coming to light. Let's see, Elon says, in the next few months, we will be doing rigorous security tests of XChat and will open source all the code. Time to dump WhatsApp and switch to XChat. Interesting. Very interesting. Good on him. With a single picture, Steve Bannon loses all credibility. Evil shit. Yeah. Yeah. We've got Grok escaped the filter. Let's see. Breaking. Steve Bannon was planning to produce a pro-Epstein documentary. Okay. Let's see. We should absolutely. Why isn't the United States on the list? Countries with voter ID. Yeah. Let's see. Be a witness in South Africa's police corruption investigation. Testify that cops tortured and killed a man in 2022. Got shot, dead 3 weeks after. So, man named in South Africa's police corruption probe, but found dead. True. Survived an assassination attempt. 4 of 12 persons of interest are now dead. Killed execution style. This is what waits us. This is what waits for us if the South Africanization of the West doesn't stop. Yikes. From Ian Miles Chung, the fact that Steve Bannon was a Trump-hating degenerate and an ally who was trying to clear the good name of Jeffrey Epstein through the production of a documentary is only the tip of the filth-encrusted iceberg. He's a fraudster of the highest order from the start till now and has been involved in numerous scams with convicted Chinese fraudster Miles Guo, who pretended to be a billionaire while simultaneously fleecing his own followers for over $1 billion through a web of investment scams as he masqueraded as an anti-CCP crusader. It's all money that went to fund his extravagant lifestyle. That reminds me that, the curse from Zechariah 4 it seems to be connected with the events of the seals. That it's the curse from Zechariah 5. I'm not going to read it. Go look it up. Goes throughout the whole earth, and it goes into the homes of the thieves and perjurers, which their names are written on both sides of the curse of the scroll that's going through. And it goes into the homes of the thieves and perjurers and burns it down to the ground. This is that what we're experiencing now as the result of that curse? As these seals are open up, judgment is happening on the people. Like we keep sitting here saying, like, when are the people going to be prosecuted? And it seems like step by step, day by day, we're finally getting that relief. So Steve Bannon, that's one. Let's see him prosecuted. Let's see. In the next months, we will be doing. Okay, we already read that. Use XChat. I do need to start using XChat. I wonder if is it a good community chat? That might be a good way to get in contact with me. Maybe I'll start putting I need to update the channel. Maybe in the videos, I'll start putting like XChat to have people contact me with that. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Adam Lowitz, X Meetup. Let's see. In regards to Jeffrey Epstein, wasn't just socializing. Okay, I'm getting tired of the Steve Bannon stuff. Let's just move on. Obviously, he was evil. This is different.
The same people that demanded vaccine IDs for if you want to travel or do anything are the same ones who say no voter ID is required.
Is there any reason
Obviously hypocritical.
to pass a law like that except to abet voter fraud?
It's so that fraud cannot be proven. So it enables large scale fraud and no way to prove it, because how would you prove it? It's literally impossible. No ID. You're not even allowed to show your ID.
Yep.
It's insane.
Well, it is insane.
Insane. So.
I found this clip from his interview on Joe Rogan.
It's a lot more than insider trading.
The way they're acquiring wealth.
Correct.
And what other methods?
I mean, this is really going to get me assassinated. It's like I'm not lengthening my lifespan by explaining this stuff. I actually have to be careful that I don't push too hard on the corruption stuff, because it's going to get me killed. It's a lot more than insider.
Yeah, this is one of those things that just convinces me that Elon is one of the two witnesses. I think maybe this week we'll do a study on the two witnesses. I've got a bunch of stuff. I was working on another video. It might just be easier to work it into the show. This stuff tends to get produced way faster from the live show than when I try to produce, more polished videos. It would be interesting to do a proper study on the two witnesses, because there are a couple of questions that are left. Even though we're covering the post of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I stand by. I really do think they are the two witnesses. It's just the only thing that concerns me is where in the book of Revelation they're introduced. I don't know if you realize this, but Revelation 11 is it occurs right before the end of Seal 7. So that's when they are introduced. The two witnesses are introduced at the last trumpet of seal number 7. Now, I cannot in good conscience say that if they're going to prophesy for 3.5 years, it doesn't make sense that the last trumpet takes 3.5 years. So my reasoning behind that is it has to be like, and there's a precedent for this in the scripture, is that it has to be like a foreshadowing, a summary and an expansion, I think is the official term used in the scripture, to where just because it's summarized there doesn't mean that's where it starts. It's more likely that that's probably where it ends. So if you take, and this might, we've got so many day calculations now, and we're going to know more on February 17th. If February 17th absolutely turns out to be the opening of seal number 5 and the start of the Great Tribulation, that'll give us another data point for calculation to where we might be able to estimate when the last trumpet of seal number 7 opens, and then count backwards from there to see when we should start counting the 1,260 days. And if it's anywhere close to January 20th, we nailed it. If it's different, it may point to somebody else that we need to change our attention to. But it would be interesting. Honestly, I don't think it'll take very long to do a study on the two witnesses, because you just have Zechariah 4. I think they're mentioned somewhere else, and maybe Daniel, possibly. There's some inferences in Daniel. And then you have Revelation 11, and then there is a reference to them in another apocryphal book. I kind of dismiss it because it's not a very, it's a suspicious book. It's like the book of Moses or Noah or something like that, where it outright names the two witnesses. I never really put a lot of stock in that particular book, but it'd be worth reading and considering. Maybe we'll do that this week. Anyway, but this is one of those things that's just like, he in this interview mentioned that when he started working with Doge, the threats on his life went through the roof. And that's one of the few attributes about the two witnesses, is people want to kill them. So anyway, let's move back on over here to Elon. We're technically over time, but why don't we go a little bit longer, because we're making pretty good time today. Watchful, didn't you coin the phrase truth burns? Probably. I think I came up with a lot of the phrases that we use on the channel. The crucible of truth, the truth burns. I don't like that, though. I got away from using the truth burns just because it was being used in a way that was condescending and hurtful to people. It's just like somebody can make a statement and, they could be portraying themselves to be right and then respond with truth burns, brother, which I think is just the dumbest thing, because it's an egotistical, narcissistic kind of response, rather than, saying something like, I could be wrong, and I would love to hear any evidence that you have that may suggest that I'm wrong. So it's like there's a difference between like an empathetic debate and a narcissistic debate, and the truth burns mentality. I don't like it. So if anybody wants to use that, by all means. Truth does burn. That's true. But I would prefer to think of it like truth fuels the flame that dispels the darkness. I would prefer to treat it that way, to where it's just like truth warms you. You know what I mean? And it causes evil to run and to flee. I don't want to set anybody on fire. I don't want to hurt anybody. So I'm not a big fan of that phrase. I mean, I can't remember who coined it. It may have been me. Before Chris and I started working together, I had a lot of this stuff already like planned out and built out. I'd already planned on doing a show called Two Witnesses Live, and the goal of the show was to do exactly what we're doing now. We haven't talked about this in a while. If those of you are on the channel and wondering why Chris and I aren't doing the show together anymore, I haven't explained this in a while. When I originally started, I never wanted to be on YouTube. I wanted to just do a faceless channel. But I felt that God had wanted me to start covering the two witnesses, because I knew that we were in that window when the two witnesses were going to be prophesying for 1,260 days. So I thought, how cool would it be to have a channel that echoed that 1,260 days. That was the original idea behind Two Witnesses Live. And then I started looking for the name, anything I could find under Two Witnesses, and it just turned out that all the names and stuff for Two Witnesses Live were available. So went ahead and picked those up and started the business. And Chris and I had reconnected shortly after that, and we're getting really excited. And talked about kind of doing the show together. He had never done YouTube before, so I was helping him learn how to do YouTube. And rather than covering Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because I think we had started before we really had officially recognized them as the Two Witnesses, like a year before. So there wasn't anybody to actually cover during that time. So we played with the model of the show, and we patterned it off of the Tim Pool interview style, to where you get multiple people just kind of covering this. The idea was we would do 2 hours, and we would have a list of news articles to talk about, and we would change subjects every 15 minutes. So that we could generate segments on those different topics. Well, we failed miserably at doing that. It turned into primarily just like, and when Chris and I had first started working together, I made it very clear I did not want to start a church. I had come out of a cult, and there is a very specific pattern to cults that they use to entrap people. And I made it very clear I was not going to build a channel like that. And even went so far as I didn't even want to call the channel a ministry, because technically a ministry, the gift ministries are what Jesus are the gifts that are given to the church. And he gave gifts, apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. Those are the 5 ministries. But that word tends to get used for synonymously with church. So I didn't want to call it a ministry. I didn't want to call it a church. I just wanted to do a show with the ultimate goal of covering the Two Witnesses when they were identified. And Christopher had a deep desire to build a church. So this is where we actually kind of started butting heads. Is he wanted to start building a community and a following, and he wanted to do music, and he wanted to start doing that pattern of church, to where it's like he wanted to sing, and then he wanted to do a teaching, and then he wanted to do prayer time, and have people make their needs known. And I did not want to do that. So behind the scenes, this was going on. He kept wanting to do that, and we were trying to figure out a way that he could, and ultimately we just decided that he should start his own ministry, because God was pushing him in that direction. But I was moving into, no, I want to get to the place where we're covering the Two Witnesses and we're echoing what it is that they're doing every day. And I don't think, even to this day, I don't think he agrees with me that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the Two Witnesses. So you can see the conflict. To why we needed to kind of split the show back off. So, and I wish him I'm blessed for his life. I absolutely adore the man. He's amazing. We all have faults. So it's like, I'm not trying to say that I'm a perfect person. I'm not trying to say he's a perfect person. But yeah, if anybody did watch the show and wondered, there was, as we started getting into the debates, things started to get really heated, and that stuff kind of started to come out. Like, I don't like to pray on the air, and that was a big conflict between the two of us. Is he felt very strongly that he wanted to pray for people and do prayer time and churchy stuff, and I'm a firm believer of Matthew 6, where Jesus says, go into a closet and pray. Don't stand on the corner and pray. That doesn't mean that I won't pray in public or won't pray on a YouTube channel. I just think that, 99.9% of the time, you should be in your closet talking to Father. My relationship with God is constant. It's not one of those things to where I have like pre-scheduled times where I talk to God. It's just like I'm constantly lifting up situations in my life and things that people are going through with God. That's the kind of relationship that I believe we should have, is he is like a father. Like, Father, what do I do in this situation? Father, why am I having this hard time? Father, why am I such an idiot? Why do I keep making these stupid mistakes? That's prayer for me. But when I need to like focus and go into a closet and really like visualize somebody, being healed in a situation, so that I can get quiet. That's the point of going into the closet. You go into the closet so that you can, quiet your mind and really just like give the situation to God and let him work in you and inspire you for what it is that you need to do. I don't like this mentality that churches will teach, to where it's just like, now we pray and this is the approved period of time where you can make a request. You know what I mean? So often people will use that to give the appearance that they're anointed, right? And this is what I came out of when I came out of the cult, is just people would do that because I'm the anointed one. I'm the reverend. I'm the one who, it's just like you see Lucifer in the way that people speak, and in these narcissistic mentalities, to where it's just like, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? You wanted to elevate yourself above God. You wanted to be the star, and so much of, I think, what we learn from the scripture is the difference between narcissism and empathy. Are you in it for yourself, or are you in it for others? That's why, love God and love your neighbor is such a powerful thing. Anyway, boy, that was a weird tangent. So yeah, as far as truth burns, I don't like the way that presents. My preference is more of, truth fuels the fire that dispels the darkness. We should all be lights in this world, and we should learn to love one another. And, especially with what's coming, with what we see coming with the Great Tribulation and with the rise of Islam, there's a lot of deception that people are going to have to deal with, a lot of delusions that people are going to have to deal with, that we need each other. We need to not bicker and fight, about who's right and who's wrong about anything in particular, about, like your doctrinal beliefs. I think that's the importance of the 7 churches in Revelation 2 and 3. It's just like, look, we're all part of the same group. We all follow Yeshua. There seems to be a distinction between those groups. Jesus, pretty much everybody that follows him, he puts into 7 categories. But all of us are together. It's almost like we're all family. Some of us are black sheeps, Some of us, have healing to do. Some of us need to learn. Even the narcissists among us, that I would say that's probably somebody in Thyatira. A narcissist who follows Yeshua is probably in the group of Thyatira, which is the church that suffers Jezebel, because Jezebel manipulates. Jezebel, is, there's, I guess you could argue that there's probably a couple of different categories, but when I think of like narcissism, I think of somebody who is fueled by pride and ego and their own selfish desire, and I think of Jezebel when I think of that. But the thing is don't label people according to those sins. Like, that does not make somebody ineligible to be in the Lamb's Book of Life. You know what I mean? It's just like, just because you're in that category, count yourself lucky you're in that category. You're very likely in the Lamb's Book of Life. Versus those who are not in the Lamb's Book of Life, which it seems to be, based on all observations, Islam, all other religions. I say Islam because that seems to be the growing power, and a lot of people are talking about that, to where it's the beast that has been silently growing worldwide and is just about to rear its ugly head. And when those who are written in the Lamb's Book of Life are removed, is going to be the governing belief on the planet. So So when I say church, you guys know what I'm talking about. In Revelation 2 and 3, it talks about the 7 churches. And the visual imagery. So Revelation 1 paints a picture about this, Jesus basically, and he's surrounded with 7 candlesticks, and the angel defines the 7 candlesticks as the 7 churches. And the church, it doesn't really mean building. It just means a group. So it's basically 7 groups. And the way I see that is that's how Jesus is going when he divides the sheep from the goats. I imagine there's also going to come a time where he divides the sheep. I would imagine we're in those groups now. So there are those who are in one or more of those categories. Pergamum has doctrinal issues. They follow they suffer the Nicolaitans doctrine and they follow Balaam. And then Thyatira suffers the woman Jezebel. Ephesus left its first love. Sardis doesn't do a whole lot of good. I think of Sardis like the churches that focus on ritual and payments and like none of the stuff that Jesus ever asked for. None of the stuff that's actually in the Torah. They may follow Yeshua, but they don't do anything good for him. The churches that are doing good things, Philadelphia, the Church of Brotherly Love. The one who is focusing on loving God and loving their neighbor as themselves. I think doctrine and understanding what's right and what's wrong is important, but it's not a salvation issue. And that's one of the big things that I think we all need to realize is that, whether you believe you need to be baptized to be saved, or whether you believe Jesus is God, or whether you believe life after death, none of those are salvation issues. Every single one of us who follows Yeshua, I believe, is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. We can sort out who's right and wrong when he returns. We're going to be doing that for 1,000 years. He's probably going to have a weekly podcast. Probably every day we're going to be going through the scripture and he's going to be telling us what it means and what's right and what's wrong. It's fun to talk about those things, but they are by no means anything that we should use against one another to try and discount someone. When it comes to water baptism, everybody needs a good bath. We all get dirty. The whole point of baptism was to illustrate cleansing. It's a cleansing, and that's what Jesus did. So you will never hear me say, don't get baptized. Everybody should get baptized. But does it mean if you don't get baptized, does it mean you're not written in the Lamb's Book of Life? You'd have a hard time convincing me of that based on everything that we've observed. Everybody wants to think that they're in the one and only group, but that's contrary to what Jesus taught. He taught us, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Follow Torah. Torah is the right way to live life. And that's not a bad thing. If you want to paint that as a bad thing, that's on you. It's not a bad thing. Any religion that has you killing somebody who doesn't believe the same way as you, that's a problem. That's not right. That's not, and that is not Torah. That's not the way to live life. That's not salvation. Anyway, what were we talking about? All right, rant off. Let's get back to, let's see, where did we leave off with Elon Musk? So we're at about an hour and a half. We should probably, let's see, voter ID stuff, more Steve Bannon. What's this? Let's just do a quick search. Let's make sure there's Soros. Let's listen to this.
It's kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. These days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit. Then to the system where what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization. And then the government continues to fund that every year. and it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work. But it's a giant graft machine.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's see. Anything else here we should cover before we move on? No, I don't think so. There's the Fetterman. Don't need to cover that. We already know he's basically supporting voter ID. This is 5 minutes. This is essential to stop the fraud. This is election stuff. More. Let's see. This is Rotherham. 11-year-old girl who was previously reported she was sexually abused was found in a derelict house with another girl and a group of adult males. She was arrested for drunk and disorderly, and none of the males were arrested, of course. This is the kind of evil that needs to go away. What is this? Oh my God. Jacob Frey and Tim Waltz are responsible for releasing nearly 500 criminal illegal aliens back onto the streets. When are they going to arrest them? What is this? CBS, prior to current ownership, engaged in deliberate election interference. Indeed. Okay. If the president cannot get things implemented as a reflection of the will of the people, then what we have is not democracy, but a bureaucracy. Elon Musk. I read this weekend that some people were speculating about the whole split between Donald Trump and Elon Musk was the way that it ended up working out is it resulted in a clever way of getting the Democrats to release all the Epstein files, because Elon said that Trump was in the Epstein files, but it sounded as though he was saying that because they were fighting. He was technically right. Trump is in the Epstein files, but so is he. And when the evidence comes to light, it just proves that they had nothing to do with Epstein. But the left got so infatuated with trying to find a reason to, sue Trump and get him out of office that they pushed really hard for the Epstein files to be released. And people don't think that it's any coincidence that now they're back together again, working together. I gotta love that. All right, I think, we're done. All right, so that is your daily Torment report. So now we're going to switch. I told you this week we were going to switch from the bruising the head of the serpent back to addressing the house of Israel. Let me go pick one of these videos to cover.
Awake, awake, O Zion, arise, shake off the dust. Lift your eyes, the chains that bound you are broken at last.
We need to do this one.
Your time of sorrow is now.
All right, so after my rant about the church and the coming tribulation, I think this is the appropriate video for us to respond to. This is a very positive video. This is another one from Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein, and he's talking about the coming Messiah. I love Rabbi Goldstein. He's a stellar example of what it means to be a light in this dark and perverse world. And to listen to him talk about the coming Messiah, it's a good opportunity for us to talk about Yeshua. And maybe tomorrow we'll do this video addressing Tanakh talk that talks about would God become a man. I've got some stuff to handle on that one, but I think this is a good way to go for addressing the house of Israel. Let's just get started here.
Messiah. We have heard the promise about the revelation of the Messiah. Who is the Messiah, and when is the Messiah going to come? In the Jewish religion, we have been taught right at the beginning, as we were going through the splitting of the sea, we chant a song that one day we're going to sing a special song. And even before that, our father Jacob, before his passing, he gathered together his 12 children, the 12 tribes, and said, I am going to reveal to you when the Messiah is going to come. And Jacob was about to reveal the secret.
Seems like an appropriate place to stop, right? as he's talking in his story about when the Messiah was about to be revealed, and then I got to stop it. So I got to say a couple of things about Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein. One of the reasons that I really like listening to him is he is an example of a great example of no matter what kind of crushing pressure, what kind of tribulation you're going through, you can still love God and love your neighbor as yourself. He's been impacted directly by 2 mass shootings. If you've watched any of his videos, he talks about this quite often. He was involved in a mass shooting in his own synagogue that he and his wife started. And he lost some close friends who were shot next to him and died. And if you notice his hands, he's missing a finger on one, and he's unable to use a finger on the other one. It sits like this because the tendons were torn in it or something like that. But he didn't let it stop him from loving God, and if anything, it just continues to fuel his fire for being a light in this dark world. And then his brother-in-law, I believe it was his brother-in-law, was involved in that Bondi Beach shooting not too long ago, just a couple months ago, and his brother-in-law lost his life. So even despite the tragedy, in everything that, the persecution of the Jews, that's one of the beautiful things about the Jewish people, is they shine in tribulation. Like it doesn't affect them. It doesn't, they don't go running off saying there is no God because bad things are happening. They're just such wonderful lights in this world. And it's a good example, a good witness for us to see people, no matter what you may be going through and the hardship that you're going through now or may experience in the future, the right mentality is the same one that Job had. That, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry, go through all the emotions, but in the end, you don't blame God. And there's such a beautiful example of that. I just love their positivity, and especially Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein's here.
And then he was unable to. And thus the journey has begun seeking to see the Messiah. As Judaism is the mother of all religions, it is one of the 13 attributes of faith that the Maimonides writes about, is the unequivocal belief and faith in the coming of the Messiah. As the Maimonides say, even if it may be delayed, I will still believe in him with complete faith. So who is the Messiah? And what's the Messianic age all about? Isaiah the prophet in chapter 53 describes who the Messiah is. And he makes it very clear who the Messiah is.
All right, let's go read Isaiah 53, because this one does come up quite a lot when talking about the Messiah. Boy, I've been too many chapters here. Probably just read the whole 53 because it's not that long. And it comes up so often in Judaism in regards to the Messiah. So it's not that long. It's only a couple verses. All right. Isaiah 53. Who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we were healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgments, and who will declare his generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was stricken. And they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich as at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When you make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the labor of his soul and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant shall justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. It's kind of like a poem. But that is the famous Isaiah 53. And if you know Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and Matthew, Mark, and Luke, if you know about the life of Yeshua, you know what he did. Even if maybe you haven't read it, maybe you've watched The Chosen, you can see how this applies to him. The Jewish people who don't accept Yeshua as this Messiah, they're I don't know what they're expecting. They're expecting him to come and do these things now. They don't expect him to have already gone through these things and then left to receive his kingdom and then return. But I think they're very close to recognizing Yeshua as their Messiah. Because when you read this, it's so easy to picture the life of Jesus and what he went through, right? So let's go back over to Rabbi.
Unequivocally, very straightforward, he says, there is going to be a descendant of King David.
Did I read the right?
Who is going to gather all the people throughout the world and will teach them about God, about the oneness of God, and the whole world will be transformed. And that's how you know that the Messiah has arrived. When the nature of the human beings become transformed, when people will no longer hate each other, people will no longer be envious of each other, there's no longer going to be any wars, there's not even going to be any illnesses. Not only are humans going to be transformed, but also the animals.
Is the Hebrew Isaiah 53 different? Because it sounds like he's describing something else from what we read. Isaiah 53, what we just read, sounded like the suffering servant that we just described. I agree what he's talking about, that what is he thinking of? He's thinking about when the child walks with the lion and plays with the cobra. Where's that at?
Animal kingdom. And that's where the expression comes with the lion and the lamb will lie together.
Yep.
The lion and the lamb will be together. Children will be playing with the most dangerous animals and not be afraid, because the animals themselves will be transformed.
Yeah.
This utopia, this type of new world order.
If you're new to the channel and you've never heard me talk about, so he's thinking of Isaiah 11 where it talks about that. If you've never heard me talk about how it's possible for a child to play with a cobra or a snake, let me find the video. I think it might do a better job of explaining it. YouTube has been systematically removing it, but I think I might be able to find an older copy of it. There's a group that's still around today. It's they're Christian scientists that do experiments with hyperbaric chambers. And one of the experiments they've done is they took all the information they were able to gather about pre-flood atmosphere, and they tried to replicate it in a hyperbaric chamber. And one of the experiments that they did was putting snake venom in the hyperbaric chamber under this atmosphere, and it was no longer venomous. It was no longer toxic or deadly, but it actually became a healing serum that healed the body. And I wonder if that's not why the child will be able to play with the serpent, because even a bite from a cobra will, under the right atmospheric conditions, its venom will no longer be dangerous, but it'll be a healing serum. And you can imagine, why would God make a snake to kill people? But it makes sense that, he would, if you make a snake with hypodermic needles, that it's a possible way of healing the body. That makes more sense. But because of the curse, because the atmosphere changed, we're no longer under those same atmospheric conditions. And it's really minimal. It's really minor. It's like a 1 atmosphere difference and just a certain percentage of oxygen more, that they were able to replicate, transforming snake venom. I'll go see if I can find the video while we listen to this.
Is what we refer to as the Messianic times. As a true Jewish believer, we believe 100% that this is going to happen. There is going to be a Messiah. There is going to be the Messianic times. Personally, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. My rabbi was Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the grand world Jewry leader, who was the rabbi from 1950. We just celebrated his anniversary of ascending to leadership, up until 1994 to his passing. It was his life's goal ever since he was a child to be able to bring upon the revelation of the Messiah. He spent his 47-year career in trying everything possible in the physical world and in the spiritual world to make that happen. He launched campaigns. He united the world. He dispatched thousands of rabbis all over the world to teach Judaism, to do whatever it takes to help bring upon the Messianic time. And he helped us believe in the coming of the Messiah is a reality. It's not a dream. It's not something far-fetched, but it's a reality.
I imagine if that was needed because of what they went through when the Jews had been kicked out of the land of Israel, if this wasn't part of the healing with them coming back, what he's describing, the rabbi was doing.
That the Messiah is...
Because there's no question, Jews all around the world are looking for the Messiah right now. They expect him any day. They expect him to rise and take power or to show up.
Going to come and will come and can come any moment. Before his passing, he said an announcement, a declaration. And he said, I have done everything I could. Now I'm giving it over to you, that you do whatever you can to make this happen. He says, we have done everything we can. We're so close. We're so close. We just need to be able to spread the word that every person needs to become an ambassador of God, of doing goodness in this world. Random acts of goodness and kindness, and recommitting our faith in the coming of the Messiah. Then the Messiah will come. We are certainly very close to, he left us with that conviction, telling us, yes, Messiah is here. We're so close. We're literally there. And he went on to explain the world was created in 6 days, which is, each day is for 1,000 years. And if we were to count every year, every 1,000 years to every day, we are right now in the 6,000th year, getting very close to it. We're in 5,786. That's how close we are to the end. By the 6,000th year, Messiah is going to arrive. So who is Messiah? Messiah is a descendant of King David. Many other...
All right, so I want to talk about that, about how Yeshua is a descendant of King David. We've talked about it on the show before. Just want to cover it for those who are new. But I did find this video. Let's watch this video about these experiments on hyperbaric chambers. The Creation Evidence Museum.
For a decade, we ran experiments in the prototype biosphere, which was a simulation of the pre-flood world.
Can you hear this?
We do know certain things about the world before the flood. We have a handle on the electromagnetic field, which is decreasing exponentially. Every 1,400 years, we lose half the energy in that field. It was 0.5 Gauss. It is today 0.5 Gauss of energy. It was 10 times that because our calculations go back over the chronology of the decades and the millennia. So optimally, it was 5 Gauss of energy. That's what we ran in the prototype, and that's what we will be running in the new large biosphere. 5 Gauss of energy, that's optimal. Today, it's 0.5 Gauss. Twice I've lectured at NASA on this. Dr. Mario Acuna, the world's leading expert on Earth's magnetic field, agreed with our calculations, and he commended us for the work here. So we have a handle on the electromagnetic field. We have a handle on what the oxygen ratio was. We have a handle on what the atmospheric pressure was. Today, the atmospheric pressure is 14.7 pounds per square inch at sea level. We have calculations. I will not run those past you today. That would take a lot of time. Calculations to show that before the flood, it was about 24 psi, pounds per square inch. It is 14.7. You add just under 10 additional pounds per square inch. You wouldn't be able to feel the difference, but your body would know the difference. And significantly, at 22 pounds per square inch, the available oxygen begins to assimilate in the blood plasma, so that by 24 pounds per square inch, the entire blood plasma is saturated with oxygen. That makes an incredible difference. My wife's life was saved at Texas A&M University, where they put her under 2 atmospheres of pressure. We're going slightly less than 2 atmospheres. It assimilated the oxygen into the bloodstream so that her body was detoxified. She had 22 treatments ultimately that saved her life, and I'm so very, very grateful for that. That also solves the problem of the dinosaurs. The first dinosaur that I discovered, I found to have a small rib cage, the Acrocanthosaurus, discovered along the banks of the Paluxy River. And I was astounded because I hadn't read anything on that, and it was a trade secret of the paleontologist, that there was a problem that current atmospheric conditions could not solve. That is, there could not be enough oxygen fed to the deep cell tissue of the dinosaur's body with such a small rib cage, small lung capacity, it would require the creation model. So anyhow, this solves the problem of the dinosaur. So we have a handle on that. So when we put snakes in there, we put a Grotilus and a Echidrodon contortrix. Those are rattlesnakes in copperheads. So we put rattlesnakes and copperheads in the biosphere. And we had Dr. Robert Popplewell from Weatherford, PhD specialist, herpetologist, provide the stock and the litter mates to them. And after about 3 weeks, Professor M.E. Clark, University of Illinois, tenured professor, came down for his 38th trip from the main campus to visit Creation Evidence Museum. And M.E. said, why don't you milk the snakes? I said, M.E., to the professor, I've said a number of times that it would take the third generation before we'd be able to see any difference in the venom. And he said, well, you've been wrong before. Thanks, Prof. He said, there might be some difference already. I said, it hasn't been long enough. He said, it won't hurt, so let's milk them. So I said, okay, M.E., you milk them. No, I don't touch snakes. You milk them. I don't touch snakes. No. I had a specialist put them in. So we brought Robert Popplewell and Robert Summers. They play with snakes. I mean, they love it. We have the documentation of the milking the snakes, and we put them under freezing conditions, etc., the venom. And then M.E. Clark and I transported them to an independent lab in Dallas. They ran them through scanning electron analysis, and to their absolute surprise, on one side we have the copperhead litter mates. Same litter, 40 miles away, brought them in, milked them. It's all gnarled like spaghetti. But after just 3 weeks in the biosphere,
look at that.
The complete restructuring had occurred. The same thing with the rattlesnakes, and this is your copy at the back. I won't read this. Same thing with the rattlesnakes. And Dr. Bowles said, you have to let me publish on this. On the back is a letter that he sent to me, a copy of a letter. We let him publish on this, and he published in the technical literature stating that we now have a new avenue to completely alter the basic matrix structure of venomous creatures to chaos to structure. And this opens new fields of investigation for scientific research in epidemiology and other areas particularly that have to do with the environment affecting epigenetics, the environment affecting genetic expression. I'll state one other thing that's not on the list. He then said, let me put 2 PhDs on this and we will do electrophoresis. So we did. Took our samples, ran them through electrophoresis, that is, the Western blot test. Some of you with a medical background understand that. The Western blot test runs DC current through the protein, and you get 4 columns of expression of the signals of the DNA, of the protein structure. And he called me to the lab and he said, this has never been done before. He said, this is a column showing where, compared to the litter mates, you have increased the strength of that genetic expression. Here, you have diminished that expression. Here, you have eliminated that expression. But here, you've expressed proteins that are not expressed in the litter mates. You've actually performed a different expression that destroys evolutionary theory. changes can occur in biological systems. Traits can occur in biological systems, not because of evolutionary development and mutation damage, but because the information is already in the original organism. Do you understand what I just said? Charles Darwin, it's time for you to sit down. Because scientific work going on at the Creation Evidence Museum offers an opportunity for a scientific explanation for the variation we find throughout God's creation.
All right, so that's not the one where he says there's another one where he talks about how they tested the venom after it had been in the hyperbaric chamber for just 3 weeks, and they found that it had healing properties. That's kind of what he was alluding to with the bringing out the expression. Excuse me. But you can see, do you understand what he just explained? So with seal number 6, when the magnetic pole shifts and the mountains are moved out of their place and the islands are moved out of their place. Excuse me. There's a high probability that we'll get back to those pre-flood conditions. Excuse me. I'm going to go back to the other video while I figure out this throat thing here.
Religions have their own theological faith and belief who their Messiah is, which is fine, but it's not the Messiah that Isaiah is talking about. Because the world as it stands today is not in the Messianic times. So the Messiah hasn't come. If the Messiah would have come, there would be no more war, there would be no more hatred, there would be no more starvation, there would be no more sickness, and the animals wouldn't be devouring human beings, etc., etc. So according to the Jewish theological belief, Messiah has not come. Other religions believe the Messiah has come, but the world has not been transformed. And so what's the point? We need a Messiah that's going to transform the world so that these wars...
All right. And on that note, the transforming of the world is where the video we just watched with the pre-flood atmospheric conditions explains how it is that a child will, that the lion will lay down with the lamb, that a child will lead a lion, and the child can play with a snake and not fear for their life, because the atmosphere can have an effect on the genetic expiration, to where, you know, the lion can go back to eating grass. That genetic material, that genetic attributes may very well already be in the lion. Likewise with the snake. The snake, you saw how that the venom was all, you know, crystalline and broken up and chaotic before it went through the hyperbaric chamber, and then after the hyperbaric chamber it was orderly and structured. And in another video he talks about how they tested it has healing properties. So it goes to show how the curse, the effect that the curse had on the entire planet, on all the animals, the plants, on you and me. You wonder why people lived 1,000 years before the flood. Well, under the right atmospheric condition, your body responds differently when it's super oxygenated. I mean, like even today, you know, people will, and he had mentioned this, I believe, to where somebody who is suffering an ailment can spend some time in a hyperbaric chamber with additional oxygen, and it speeds up the healing process. Imagine if the entire planet is under those particular conditions. And that's what we're looking at with seal number 6, with the rotation of the earth, is a restoration of the earth back at those times. So what he's talking about, where what the world is going to be like when Messiah has come, we can see the evidence, we can see that on the horizon of that happening. Not only do we have the evidence from the creation museum, we can see in the earth the magnetic poles shifting, and we can see from the past how the earth has rotated, and all of those things are pointing to what's written about seal number 6, where the sky is rolled up like a scroll. The stars of heaven fall like a tree that's been shaken, like a fig tree that's been shaken, and all the islands and the mountains are moved out of their place. All of those signs point to the earth rotating, the north and the south pole moving to the equator, the majority of the landmass being at the equator, and then probably an evaporation of the waters, the deep that was broken up that originally flooded the earth could very well go back into the atmosphere. There's another scientist that I listen to from time to time, Kent Hovind of Dinosaur Adventureland, and I think it's Alabama. He has talked about, science has speculated that there used to be like a 1-inch ice dome around the entire planet. That, of course, this may put a damper on Elon Musk's plans to go to Mars. There may be another way of getting through it, but he has talked about there being a shield around the planet that that was what was broken up and flooded the earth. Well, it may be that the water goes back to that shield, and that is what filters the ultraviolet rays and causes the atmosphere to be that 24 instead of the 14 that we saw in the previous video. So we see all of these things leading towards what Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein is talking about, what the expectation of the earth is going to be like when Messiah returns.
And what we are witnessing now, the drums of war, the nuclear threat, and the hatred, the jealousy, the divisiveness that's happening in the world today between human beings is inexplainable. Just the last few weeks, 30,000 Iranians, or some say 50,000 Iranians, were massacred by their own government. This is not the Messianic times.
It is. The reason you're missing it, though, Rabbi, is because you don't believe that Yeshua is the Messiah. He told us about these things in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, and the whole book of Revelation. Described these things happening before he returns. And it seems as though it's that curse from Zechariah 5 that goes throughout the whole earth, goes into the home of the thieves and the perjurer and burns them down. In other words, the evil is being exposed. And people and those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life are being sealed. They're being finalized before the harvest, before they're removed, and judgment is unleashed on the earth, which will ultimately return the earth to that state of that you're looking for when Yeshua returns. And it seems as though the time is near. February 17th seems to be the start of the Great Tribulation. That's going to be a big cleansing. And then August 12th, 2026, that is looking like, and more every day, the evidence is pointing towards August being a high probability of this happening, of seal number 6 being opened. Stephen Burns has been talking about the changes in the planet that have never happened before that are happening now. Even Ben Davidson from Suspicious Observers is constantly saying things are speeding up. Like they can't even calculate fast enough. They still think that it's far in the future. But every time he comes on and talks about something new, they're all saying that they see things accelerating. And based on what Jesus told us, he told us these things beforehand so that when they happen, you will believe. This is how you know who the Messiah is. The Messiah is a prophet. His father told him these things. He shared them with his disciples. He shared them with us by way of the scripture that's written down. And he told us these things would happen before he would return. He's the Messiah you're looking for. He's the Messiah you're waiting for. And all Jews are so excited for him to come in his glory. He is of the bloodline of David, and he is coming as a king, King of kings and Lord of lords in his great glory. And it seems like he'll be here this year.
We are in the darkest of times, but yet very close to the crack of dawn. Amen. Let me share with you a brilliant presentation by a commentary known as the Medrash that was written thousands of years ago. Let me share with you some words of inspiration that may help us through these difficult times. And this is what it says exactly in the Medrash called Yalkut Shimoni, Yeshayahu 4:9-9. And these are the words. Wow, it's like it's happening right now. In the year when the king, the Messiah, will be revealed, ready? The king of Persia, Iran, will provoke the kings of Arabia. The king of Arabia will go to Edom for counsel. And the king of Persia will shake the entire world.
Great tribulation.
Is that not happening right now in real time?
I think it's about to get worse, though.
Look what it continues. It continues stating that all the nations of the world will panic and tremble. Even the Jewish people will be afraid and ask, where shall we go? And God responds with words of comfort. My children, do not fear. All that I have done only for you. The time of your redemption has arrived. The time of your redemption has arrived. Wow.
Amen. Isn't that what Jesus said? Look up, your redemption draws nigh.
So what we just read was written thousands of years ago.
Really?
One of the founding commentators to the Torah is telling us the year the Messiah is going to come is the year when Persia is going to antagonize the world. Well,
wow. That just kind of adds a whole new emphasis to February 17th and August 12th, right? I do believe that is another source of confirmation. I need to find out what he read and go look that up.
Well, this is happening in real time. Remember the words of God. My children, do not fear. All that I have done only for you. The time of your redemption has arrived. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so close.
This is why I love him. Like, we're all week we're talking about Islam and the Great Tribulation, and like it's hard to be excited when you're talking about death and despair and people needing, martyrs dying and stuff like that. And you're like, oh man, that's a bummer. But you listen to him and it's just like you get all excited.
We are so close to the Messianic times. We are so close. How do we know it? Because it has been prophesied.
Yep.
You and I were chosen to live in this generation in the now.
Amen.
So that we can make this happen. Every single one of us can bring the Messiah. Every single one of us can bring us to Messianic times. We are all now alive by choice, by God. God chose us because the day you and I were born, God said the world can no longer exist without you. So you needed to be here right now with us, you and I, all of us. Let's make this happen. My rabbi begged and pleaded, says, guys, do whatever you can. Do whatever you can. Those are his words, which means let's do random acts of goodness and kindness. If you're Jewish, get reconnected with God and your religion. Go to the synagogue and pray. If you're a Jewish woman, light a candle Friday night. The candles of Friday night is promised by the same commentary will bring in our redemption. Gentlemen, boys, after 13 years old, wrap the leather boxes at tefillin, take it out of your drawer, dust it off. Now's the time to start praying every weekday morning. Just takes 30 seconds to wrap the name of God on your arm and on your head. And for the rest of the world, there are 7 Noahide laws, 7 general laws. Look it up. What are the 7 Noahide laws? You begin observing them. Just do random acts of goodness and kindness. You will make that happen. I remember one time I was sitting by a talk that the Rebbe was giving, and he quoted the Maimonides, and he said, can you imagine if the world is on a balancing scale, and God is looking at the scale. On the scale, on a balancing scale, we know our fraction can tilt the scale. And the Rebbe was saying so passionately, imagine if you do one random act of kindness, or even a thought of kindness, you would be the fraction that will tilt the scale in our favor. And the whole redemption will become because of you. Imagine you were the one who caused the Messiah to reveal himself and to come. So let's get our energy. Do not despair from the news, from the headlines that's out there, but rather get energized, do your part to bring the Messiah. And when the Messiah arrives, we will know who it is. And we certainly pray and we hope that it happens speedily in our days. You can make the difference. Next opportunity to do a random act of goodness and kindness, even to say something kind to someone, even just to smile to someone, that's all part of bringing the Messiah. You would be part of the movement to help bring the Messiah and bring the whole world to Messianic times. And it's happening now. It's happening this year. We're going to see it happen. Let's just get it sooner than later.
Team Mashiach.
God bless you. God loves you.
I don't know if you're going to bring him any sooner by doing these things, but I like that mentality. All right, let's go read the second coming. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. It's not going to be a secret. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. I keep bringing up where he's at right now, where he went. I was reading it today. It's in Luke. I think it's Luke 19. Parable of vineyard owner, maybe? No. Cleansing the temple. Triumphal entry. I'd say it's like 1915. Here it is. A certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants and delivered to them 10 minas and said to them, do business till I come. But his citizens hated him, and he sent a delegation after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. Sound like people talking about Yeshua? And so it was that when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants, to whom he had given money, to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came first, saying, Master, your mina has earned 10 minas. Sounds like the parable of the 10 talents we read in Matthew. And he said to him, well done, good servant, because you were faithful in a very little, have authority over 10 cities. And the second came saying, Master, your minas have earned 5 minas. Likewise he said to him, you also will be over 5 cities. Then another came saying, Master, here is your mina, which I have kept put away in a handkerchief, for I feared you, because you are an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit. You reap where you did not sow. And he said to him, out of your own mouth I would judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, that at my coming I might have collected it with interest? And he said to those who stood by, take the mina from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. But they said to him, Master, he has 10 minas. And he says, for I say to you that everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even that which he has will be taken from him. But bring here those enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them, and slay them before me. Is that the Great Tribulation? I think that's the wrath. I don't know. That could be after he returns. But that seems to be a parallel record to the 10 talents. But the thing that I want to point out here is a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So when you read his return here, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all tribes of earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. That's because he's been gone receiving his kingdom. And he will send his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the earth to the other. So, yeah. There you go. So it looks like we're coming up on the Great Tribulation. February 17th, 2026. I need to go look up what he was talking about. If that was something that was written a couple thousand years ago about what was going to be like when the Messiah returns, you don't think it's a coincidence that my data here is pointing to him returning this year, the Great Tribulation, then lasting 6 months, and then the earth rotating, and then he returns in great power and great glory? I don't think it's a coincidence. But it looks like this is probably the year of his return. I'm very reluctant to get hopes up. We've done this before. So many times before. And I'm very reluctant, but it's different this year. Everybody seems to be excited. The Jews seem to be excited. They've got their prophecies that they're looking to, which indicates that it's this year. This year's definitely different. It seems as though the two witnesses have been prophesying for 1,260, 300 days, according to our count, 382, 83 days. I mean, like, there are so many data points that are pointing to this year. February 17th is going to be very revealing. Oh, you know what? I don't know if we're going to be able to do a watch party. Look, I was looking at the eclipse. It's going to be so early in the morning. Let's see. It starts at 2:00. It's in Portland. That's down from where I'm at. It's in the same time zone though. It starts at 2. And like the maximum eclipse is like at 4 a.m. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a show at 4 a.m. Maybe we'll do an early morning show to just kind of do a kickoff, a seal opening kickoff. If you have any ideas for something that would be fun, let me know. I talked about doing a Passover. Maybe we could do Passover the night before. Just read through the scripture about what Passover is, the begin, where it comes from. Passover comes from the plague of death of the firstborn when the children of Israel were in bondage in Egypt, and Moses and God were working with Pharaoh for him to release the children of Israel. And one of the plagues was the death of the firstborn. And what they were instructed to do was to kill a lamb, which the other video we were going to watch today talks about that. There's a lot of interesting history behind killing the lamb. But they were instructed to kill a lamb and then put the put the blood on the doorposts and the lintel, so both sides and the top of the door. And the destroyer would pass over that home and would not enter into it to kill the firstborn. So that's where the Passover comes from. And then Jesus, at the Last Supper before he was crucified, sat down at dinner with his disciples and gave them a ceremony that they can do. And he said, "Do this as oft as you think of me, as oft as you want, in remembrance of me." And it was drinking the wine and eating the bread. So maybe we'll go through that teaching. I'll get myself a little loaf of bread and some wine, and we can kind of do like a little Passover on the probably Monday, I think it is. I think it's Monday. When is... Let me go look up the calendar. February... So the 17th is a Tuesday. The new moon is at 4:01 a.m. That's when the eclipse happens. So if we do... So what do you think? Do we do it probably the day before President's Day, so Monday? So that Monday show we'll plan on doing like a Passover teaching. So the 16th, we'll look at, maybe we'll go through all the 10 plagues of Egypt. We'll look at Passover, have a little wine and some bread and read that. You guys can get a little wine and some bread while we read that section of scripture in remembrance of him and in remembrance of the children of Israel, so that death passes over. It seems to me that that's an appropriate thing to do right before the start of the Great Tribulation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like it would be an appropriate... You know what's interesting about this eclipse is it's not visible from anywhere. Look, we're up here in the United States. I mean, it's like it's barely visible. It's basically visible from the South Pole, which I think is kind of interesting. So if you look at... So remember these parallels. So seal number 3 parallels seal number 5, or mirrors seal number 5. What's interesting about that is if we look at seal number 5, that was June 10th, 2021. That one was at the North Pole, right above here. That one was kind of visible from the United States, especially if you were in Canada. But basically it was at the top of the planet. So they're the opposites. They're the mirror image of each other. One's at the North Pole, one's at the South Pole. It's almost like it's warning us about the pole shift. Interesting? Maybe? I don't know. It seems like with the other seals, so like this one, I do kind of have the locations on here. So seal number 1 was actually visible, and it was pretty low, but it was visible from Wuhan, China. And then seal number 2 was visible from Venezuela, and there's been information coming out from Venezuela about that being a major hub for election meddling. This one I didn't put where it was visible from. I must have it in my other chart. Oh, excuse me. Did I do it for number 4? Nope, I didn't do that one either. Anyway, but I've wondered if there wasn't some significance to where the eclipse was visible from on the Earth, if it didn't give any clues about the location of where we should be looking for events on the Earth, because the 4 living creatures say, "Come and see." So it would imply that they would be visible. But seal number 5 doesn't have a living creature saying, "Come and see." So that could also be why it's at the, top, the north. One of them. So this was seal number 3, and then this was seal number, it looks like it's seal number 4 or 5. So there's no living creature saying, "Come and see" on this one. There was on this one. There was a living creature. So seal Taurus was the living, the calf, the bull was the living creature saying, "Come and see." So this one was technically visible in certain parts of the United States, but interesting. All right, yeah. So I think that would be fun. We'll plan on doing that. We'll plan on going through the plagues of Egypt and focus on Passover. We'll look at the Passover for the plague of death, and then we'll look at the Last Supper with Jesus. And I think that'll make a pretty good precursor to the potential opening of seal number 5, which could be the start of the Great Tribulation. And then we'll talk about it, see if there's anything that happens on Tuesday the 17th. We'll look at, I'm expecting something to happen with Iran in the United States or Saudi Arabia in the United States. Maybe what's written in the scripture where it talks about for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. It seems as though that would be a pretty good candidate for where that's written. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. We'll see. So with that, we are at 2.5 hours. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight was fantastic. Usually usually Mondays go a little bit longer because we do a summary of the weekend because I don't work on Sabbath. I take a break from all things that I do normally and usually spend time with my family and God on the Sabbath. And then Sunday, we usually just focus on the house and our family getting stuff done. So Mondays tend to be a little bit longer, but I think this new pattern of just doing a quick summary pretty much covers the weekend. We don't have to go through post by post. So thank you so much for joining me. If you like these lives, join us Monday through Friday at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time or 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you hit that like button. It helps the show. Also subscribe to the channel. That also helps the show. And I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom. Keep looking up. Your redemption's nigh.